Let's go Rams! Things are heating up behind the scenes for the Los Angeles Rams, and the timing couldn't be more interesting. The second preseason game against the New Orleans Saints is approaching, the battle for roster spots is intensifying, and every practice rep suddenly carries more weight. There is a lot of anticipation regarding what we'll see when the Rams take the field again, especially with younger players trying to prove they deserve their spot. Well, I won't waste any time because we have important things to share with you. Before we move on, I just ask that you hit the like button, but only do so if you believe the Rams are capable of reaching the Super Bowl this year. If possible, right? Go Rams! Let's get to the Super Bowl. Today's news got me thinking a bit about the current roster. Before we cover everything that happened during the joint practice with New Orleans, we need to discuss another important topic, as three names are raising questions among the fans. Ronnie Rivers, A.J. Arcuri, and Elias Neal didn't play in the previous preseason game, which immediately sparked speculation about their futures. However, not playing doesn't automatically mean a player has a guaranteed spot on the final 53-man roster. Rivers' case is particularly interesting, given that the Rams already know exactly what he brings to the table. He has been a key contributor on special teams, logging 472 snaps with that unit since 2022. Last season, he participated in 91 special teams plays, compared to just 19 offensive snaps across 11 games. He also led the Rams' running backs in punt unit action and racked up 418 kickoff return yards on 16 attempts. At the same time, Dean Connors and Jarquez Hunter need opportunities, and giving Rivers preseason snaps could take valuable evaluation time away from younger backs. Arcuri and Neal are different cases because both could potentially be protected from unnecessary exposure while the Rams evaluate how they want to handle the final roster and practice squad. The big message is simple. Their absence is meaningful, but it is not proof of anything yet. The second preseason game could tell us much more. And that brings us directly to what is happening now, because this second preseason game against the Saints already has a very different feeling after what happened at the joint practice. The Rams and Saints were supposed to have a longer session together, but the practice ended roughly 1 hour earlier than planned. The reason had nothing to do with a fight, an argument, or anything involving the Rams. New Orleans simply started dealing with too many injuries. The Saints had already entered the practice with injury concerns, and then several more players went down during the session. 5 new injuries were mentioned, including starting centers Cesar Ruiz and John Ridgway. At that point, Saints head coach Kellen Moore apparently had seen enough. That decision also eliminated some plays the two teams wanted to run, including the 2-minute drill. So yes, the Rams lost some valuable competitive reps, and this was expected to be their final joint practice of 2026. But there is also a bigger picture here. These practices matter, but keeping players healthy matters more. There is no benefit in getting extra reps if important players are getting hurt before the regular season even begins. Even with the shortened practice, there were still some encouraging signs for Los Angeles, particularly from the defense. The Rams' defense reportedly started the day very well against the Saints' first-team offense. Defensive linemen were creating pressure, collapsing the pocket around quarterback Tyler Shue, and making it difficult for New Orleans to establish rhythm through the air. There were multiple passes knocked down at the line of scrimmage. Kobe Turner was specifically mentioned for getting his hands up and batting a pass away, while Braden Fisk had a play that likely would have resulted in a sack under normal game conditions. Now, we also have to keep the situation in perspective. The Saints were without Chris Olave and Jordan Tyson, so their passing attack was missing important weapons. Still, you want your defense to control the opponent in front of them, and that is exactly what the Rams appeared to do early in this practice. The ground game for New Orleans eventually started finding more success, but the passing game never really seemed to get comfortable. For Rams fans, that is a positive sign because pressure from the defensive front can change an entire game. If Los Angeles can consistently make quarterbacks uncomfortable without having to send extra defenders, It gives the rest of the defense much more freedom. On offense, though, one of the biggest stories continues to be the connection between Matthew Stafford and Davante Adams. That chemistry is becoming impossible to ignore. Stafford and Adams reportedly continued making plays together throughout practice, and everything coming out of training camp suggests that their connection has taken another step in their second season working together. Adams already had a productive first year in the Rams offense, but there is a feeling that we still did not see everything this partnership could become. That matters because familiarity is extremely important in this offense. Stafford needs receivers who understand where he expects them to be, especially when a play changes after the snap. Adams has spent more time learning the system, more time communicating with Stafford, and more time understanding how this offense wants to attack defenses. So when we hear that these two are looking even more comfortable now, that is not a small detail. Puka Nacua did not participate in this joint practice, and neither did Miles, because of left knee soreness. That naturally gave other players more opportunities, and one player continues to take advantage of every chance he gets. Terrence Ferguson might be developing into one of the most interesting players on this Rams offense. Ferguson was once again mentioned for making multiple receptions, including catches over the middle of the field. What makes this even more interesting is that he did not play in the previous preseason game. When you combine that decision with the way he is being used in joint practices and the way Sean McVay keeps talking about him, the Rams clearly appear to have meaningful plans for him. There may have been some disappointment among fans after Ferguson's rookie season because he did not immediately explode onto the scene. But inside the organization, the view seems very different. The Rams appear to see his first season as a period of learning, development, and adjustment. Now, they may believe he is ready for the next step. McVay specifically praised Ferguson's intelligence when asked about the confidence the second-year tight end has been showing during practice. And this is not only coming from the head coach. Reports from people watching these practices have consistently mentioned Ferguson making plays. Even after the previous joint practice against Dallas, there were positive comments about the impact he made against the Cowboys' defense. That starts to create a very interesting possibility for this offense. Everyone keeps asking who the third wide receiver will be behind the top options, but maybe the better question is who will become Matthew Stafford's third receiving option overall. And the answer could be Terrence Ferguson. If Ferguson really takes that second-year jump, the Rams may not need their third most important receiving target to be another wide receiver. A tight end who can work the middle of the field, create matchup problems, and earn Stafford's trust could give Sean McVay another weapon to build around. That would make this offense even more difficult to defend because opponents would already have to worry about Puka Nacua and Davante Adams. Add a tight end becoming a consistent receiving threat, and suddenly, linebackers and safeties have another problem to solve. There was also an important update involving the offensive line, and this is something Rams fans should continue watching closely. Sean McVay said the Rams are hopeful Keegan Trost can return before Week 1 in Australia. His absence is a setback, but the expectation is that it will hopefully be temporary. There was initially some confusion about exactly where Trost stands in the offensive line rotation. The clarification was that Trost is currently the backup right tackle, while David Quessenberry is the backup left tackle. If Trost is unavailable, Quessenberry could then become the swing tackle. That distinction matters because left tackle could become one of the most important positions on the entire roster early in the season. Alaric Jackson's situation remains a major question because of the possibility that he could be suspended. If Jackson misses games, the Rams need to know exactly how they will protect Stafford's blind side. One possible solution discussed is moving Warren McClendon from right tackle to left tackle. McClendon played well when filling in for Rob Havenstein last season, so the Rams could potentially test whether he can handle the left side as well. If they went in that direction, then either Trost or Quessenberry could potentially be asked to play right tackle. And this is where the situation becomes bigger than simply surviving a few games. If McClendon proves that he can play left tackle at a high level, and if another player can successfully handle the right side, the Rams could suddenly have major decisions to make about the future of the offensive line. Jackson's potential suspension adds even more uncertainty. The discussion in the report raised the possibility that if a different offensive line combination works well, Los Angeles could eventually reconsider Jackson's long-term place with the team. That is obviously something that would depend on what actually happens on the field. But it gives these preseason practices and early season lineup decisions much more importance than they might normally have. The Rams are not simply evaluating backups. They may be discovering combinations that could influence future roster decisions. And then we get to the subject that is going to keep Rams fans watching every update very carefully. Aaron Donald. There is still no final decision. According to Sean McVay, Donald is expected to participate in a couple more practices before reaching a firm decision about whether he wants to return. And yes, everybody wants the answer right now. Rams fans would love to wake up and hear that Aaron Donald has officially decided to come back and chase another Super Bowl. But this is clearly a major decision for him, and the Rams appear willing to give him the time he needs. Donald has already accomplished almost everything an NFL player could dream of accomplishing. Coming back would mean committing his body and his time to another full season at the highest level of football. It would also affect his family. That is why this decision cannot simply be viewed like a normal roster move. Donald has to decide whether he wants to return to the daily demands of NFL football, training, meetings, practices, travel, and everything else that comes with another season. For the Rams, however, the possibility is obviously enormous. This team already has serious expectations. Stafford and Adams appear to be building even better chemistry. Ferguson looks ready for a larger role. The defense showed encouraging signs against New Orleans. Young players are fighting for roster positions. The offensive line is working through important questions. And somewhere in the middle of all of this is the possibility that Aaron Donald could decide he wants one more run. That is why the atmosphere around this team feels so interesting right now. There are battles at running back. There are questions about players who did not appear in the first preseason game. There are decisions coming at linebacker and offensive tackle. There is a young tight end potentially becoming a major part of the passing attack. Stafford and Adams are building something that could become even better than what we saw last year. And now, the second preseason game against the Saints gives us another opportunity to get answers. Will Ronnie Rivers play this time? Will A.J. Arcuri get his opportunity? What about Elias Neal? If those three are held out again, the conversation about their roster status becomes much more interesting. Now, I want to hear from you, Rams fans. What do you think the Rams are planning with Ronnie Rivers, A.J. Arcuri, and Elias Neal? Do you believe Terrence Ferguson is ready to become one of Matthew Stafford's main weapons? And if Aaron Donald decides to return, how much does that change your expectations for this season? Drop your opinion in the comments. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss anything, because things are moving fast in Los Angeles, and at any moment, I'll be back with more news and updates about the Rams.